Yo, what's going on, Kicks Army? Today I'll be showing you guys how to draw the Air Jordan 33 step by step. After the initial drawing is done, I'll be going through and outlining it with marker, and then once that part is done, I'm going to be coloring it in. As always, I'll be sure to offer you guys some tips and tricks on how to better improve your drawings. If you guys enjoy these daily sneaker drawing videos and basketball discussions, make sure you hit the like button, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and bounce past that bell to get post notifications. And more importantly, I want you guys to understand that if you like any of the stencils that you see in any one of my videos, including this one, I have all the stencils available for free on my website, KicksArt. Best part about the website is that if there's a stencil that you want to see added to the website that's not already available, you can send in requests to the contact tab at the top of the page. Now, with all that being said, let's get it! Before we can actually draw the sneaker, we have to set up some guidelines to make sure the shoe looks proportionally correct. To do this, we're going to draw two squares right next to each other. Afterward, we're going to divide the two squares into top and bottom halves. Next, we're going to add two vertical lines, one on the bottom right hand quadrant and the second one on the initial left box. Finally, we're going to add one more horizontal line, dividing the two bottom quadrants into halves, and this will give us all the guidelines we need to draw out the rest of the sneaker. Now, as usual with a lot of my drawings, I like to start doing the silhouette because I feel like once the silhouette is done, it's much easier to add the inner details. You're going to notice that the tongue extends past that top baseline that we put. The heel of the sneaker has a lot of weird lines that are kind of working together, so always keep in mind where I put my lines in relation to where the guidelines are. After we flesh out some of the heel and the pull tab, we're going to start working on the outsole, and especially for the outsole, you want to use that last horizontal line that we placed as your guide. We're going to add a few more details that will really distinguish the midsole from the outsole itself. Then we're going to start to implement some of the lines that connect the midsole to the upper. And I don't know about you guys, but looking at the upper from this point, it's almost like two mountains with the sun kind of rising in between them. Once we have that done, we're going to start working on the lacing system. We're going to add some more details on the upper that weave around the tongue. And we're going to finish up the lacing system and the tongue. Finally, I'm going to add a few more minor details to the upper, and after that, you are pretty much done. The drawing is complete. Now, oddly enough, this next stage, the inking stage, is the most important stage. You want to know why? Because now we have to actually commit to the lines that we place down. If we do a good job with the sketching stage, you have the proportions laid out fine, you put all the lines where they're supposed to go, this inking stage should be much, much easier. But if you didn't set yourself up for success during the session stage, then this stage is not going to be any easier. Unless you're very confident with your artistic skills, where even if you have a rough placement of the lines that you did in the sketching stage, that you can go ahead and you can refine them when you do the inking. Point is, you can erase pencil, but you can't erase ink. The only thing you can do with ink is you can go over it with a darker color, but if we're dealing with black, which is what I use for a lot of my outlining, there's no going over black. You're pretty much stuck with it. And tip two, that when it comes to outlining, it's not about the pressure, okay? Obviously pressure matters because, you have to have the ink actually go on the paper, and to do that, you actually have to put a little bit of pressure with your pen, with your marker, whatever you're using on the paper, so that way it actually applies. But if you put too much pressure, it's gonna be stressful to keep those lines clean. It's not about pressing hard, it's about being consistent, being smooth, being in control of your marker. With all of my lines, I never just go over a spot once. I'm usually doing a small part of the line first, and then what I'm doing is I'm placing down that line, and then I'm going back over it one more time, and that tends to smooth everything out so that way it looks fresh. Because I notice, at least with what I do, whenever I first place down that mark, there are spots that are thicker than others because it'll like glob up in certain sections depending on how hard I press. That's why when you go back over that line one more time, it usually cleans everything out so that way it looks consistent. Now, this can be perceived as being kind of annoying because you kind of have to babysit every single spot of the outlining stage in order to make sure it looks good. But guys, that's the difference between having an okay drawing and a really, really good clean drawing. Sure, it takes a little bit of work, but it's not impossible and it can be done. And the more you practice it, the easier it's going to be. I say in all my how to draw videos, I prefer to use micron markers because they come in different sizes. They have the 0.20, 0.25, 0.35, and 0.45. I get all my micron markers at Michael's. However, I'm sure if you go to any of your local art supply stores, they'll have them available. They come in other colors, not in just black, so they have reds, they have blues, but for what I do, I only need to work with the black, so that's what I buy. When I do these how to draw videos, I usually only stick with one size. It's usually the 0.45, although in this particular video, that 0.45 marker that I had was dying a bit, so I had to go to the 0.35, which is basically the same thing anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much. When I do the stencil is where I'm actually able to have the paper right in front of me. I can twist it, I can turn it, because in these videos, I can't rotate the paper. I mean, I could, but it really wouldn't be a good viewing experience for you, the viewer, so I have it taped down so that way it doesn't move. When I do my stencil, is I'm using two markers, all right? Well, I'm using two widths. I'm using the 0.45 millimeter for all the basic outlining, and then if it's finer detail like stitching, perforations, or just line work that doesn't have to be as thick based on the model of the shoe, I'll use the 0.20 millimeter, so that way there's actually a pretty noticeable difference between the two sizes. Let's talk about markers real quick, and when I talk about markers, like there's a lot of different kind of markers you can get out there. If you're balling on a budget, right? If you don't have a lot of money like me, you know, I don't have a lot of money. I can't afford any of the sneakers that I actually draw because I'm a broke college student. You guys already know that's the case. If you are balling on a budget, there is nothing wrong whatsoever with using Sharpies. I use Sharpies for a lot of my earlier drawings. Guys, go on my Instagram. You know what I should do actually? I should have a section on the website where it shows all my earlier drawings done with Sharpies, so that way it's much easier to see, so that way you're not always having to scroll all the way down my Instagram feed. I'm not one to brag, even though I pretty much brag in every video to some capacity, but with the stuff I was able to do with just the Sharpie markers, because there's a lot of different colors out there with Sharpies. They also have the regular Sharpies and they have the ultra fine Sharpies, which are much thinner. So you can do a lot of things with a lot of different widths, with a lot of different colors, and I was able to actually get some pretty decent results, especially with the silver metallic Sharpies that they have. That comes out really, really nice in a lot of drawings. And if it wasn't for those initial drawings that I did on my Instagram when I would take requests and I would post them on Instagram and I get feedback and I would continue to do it more and more, I wouldn't have this channel. It was only because I did those initial drawings on Instagram back in the day when my drawing skills were not the same as they were now, that I was able to actually grow and develop, and I was able to have the idea like, you know what, I want to make videos of these because this would be something that I would want to see. I did all that work with Sharpies. Now here's the thing, Sharpies for some of you might also be too expensive as well, and at the end of the day, guys, if you're into art, if you like this as a hobby or if this is a passion that you have to understand with anything that's a hobby or a passion, for the most part, unless it's like sleeping, somebody brought that up in one of the live streams, it's gonna require money. So I made the comment about basketball, right? You have to have a basketball, you got to pay for that. If you can't go to a park, or if you don't have access to a hoop, you have to buy a hoop. You have to have appropriate clothing, so you got to have, like, you know, an undershirt, basketball shorts, basketball shoes. That's not always required, but it makes it a lot easier if you're not having to, you know, ball up in jeans or something like that, right? Like, that in and of itself is already a pretty decent investment to make. So I'm telling you guys, when it comes to any hobby, you're gonna have to put some money down in order to get some stuff back. Now, I will say this though, if you really can't afford markers, for the most part, colored pencils are usually cheaper than markers. And with the same philosophies that I use in a lot of my videos when it comes to coloring and stuff, you can do the same thing with colored pencils. And for the most part, colored pencils are much more forgiving than markers, because when you put that ink on that sheet of paper, it's there. The only way you can cover it up is if you have a darker marker to cover it up. And if you're not trying to go darker, then you're kind of stuck with whatever you have. Even though colored pencils are more forgiving when it comes to the coloring aspect, the problem is the colors are not as vibrant as markers are. You know, the way the ink works with markers, it's just very hard for colored pencils to compare unless you're trying to get good quality colored pencils, in which case, if you're spending that much money on good quality colored pencils, why don't you buy markers if you wanted markers instead, you know what I mean? One more thing before I wrap up this video, guys, I'm going to talk about live streaming real quick. I'm not going to lie, because the way my schedule is looking this quarter, with just the amount of schoolwork that I have to do, my actual job, because it is going to be Christmas season, I work at a UPS store, is going to be nuts, right? Everything's going to be busy. I'm doing a lot of freelance work nowadays. Making these videos every day, it's gonna be tough when it comes to these type of videos. So what I'm gonna probably be doing a lot more is live streaming, because live streaming does not take nearly as much time to do. These type of drawing videos, they take about 3 hours every single day to do. When it comes to live streaming, I can bust out a pretty decent live stream in like an hour and a half. That cuts the time down by half, guys, and makes it a lot more easier on me because I'm not having to worry about wasting 3 hours in the day when I have homework and other stuff I have to take care of. I know a lot of you guys like the live streams too because we actually get to talk back and forth. You get to ask me questions. I get to do the digital illustrations. And doing those digital illustrations is a huge break from actually having to do the videos, because I will say this, sometimes when it comes to doing these drawings, like, I'm so sick of it because these light boxes, when they're on, they're really hot. Like, it's kind of annoying to have to sit here for like an hour, do these drawings. I'm over here sweating. And it doesn't help that I'm stressed out. Well, actually, I wouldn't say stressed out. It doesn't help that I have a lot of other stuff on my plate that I have to worry about. So guys, expect a lot more live streams. I know some of you guys are super excited. For those of you who are not, I recommend you guys check out the live streams. It's good content. And the best part is, if you don't want to watch it, if you just listen to the live streams, it's a podcast. We talk about a lot of great stuff. I give you guys a lot of art tips, talk about basketball. It's great. I think it's great. I'm biased, so it is what it is. But that's gonna do it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and bounce past that bell to get post notifications. Don't forget to visit KicksArt.com for all your sticker stencil needs. As I have a full playlist of over 60 how to draw videos, I'm gonna include a link to it at the very end so that way you guys can click on it and go check out other videos that I have to make sure you guys can draw your favorite sneakers. Y'all already know that I'm gonna do daily content on this channel, so I will see you guys tomorrow. Yay!